324. In particular, growth in the services sector has been impressive, mainly driven by strong recovery in retail and wholesale trade.
But the performance comes at a glance of the public debt hitting 97.36 trillion by the end of June 2024. Minister Kasaija is not worried as he breaks down the expenditure of the borrowed money.
We must raise more revenue and reduce reliance on borrowing and external grants. Those of us who go to borrow, they take us as if we are children. They look at you, go today, come tomorrow. Go today, No, we should really take a decision so that we can at least get a reasonable percentage.
Kasaija interests the public on the development of industrial parks, extension of the national backbone infrastructure, which has improved the quality of internet and communication, as well as investment in education and health, among others, in relation to the borrowed funds. In the pursuit to push the agenda of socio-economic transformation, as per the slogan of the 2021-2026 NRM term, government boosts of the presidential wealth creation programs like the PDM, Youth Livelihood and Emyoga. Minister Kasaija reveals that more 1.05.
All right, there you have it. Yesterday was the national reading for the national budget 2024-2025, a resource envelope of 72 trillion Ugandan shillings for the next financial year. And if you are to compare Uganda's national budget with that of its East African neighbors, that is Kenya and Tanzania, Kenya's budget is the biggest in regards to how much they are to spend, and then followed by Tanzania, then ours comes in at third. But however, ours was supposed to be around 58 trillion Ugandan shillings until a supplementary was passed, and then we finalized with a 72 trillion Ugandan shillings budget. Please do note that the previous budget was 52.7 trillion Ugandan shillings. That is for the current financial year, which comes to the end June 30th. I'm Joram Paulson now to give you a further breakdown of the national budget reading that happened yesterday, and that is in regards to the Constitution Article 1551, and of course, looking into this, you get to realize that increase. Let's first of all look into what we expect in the next financial year, because in regards to taxation, starting 1st July, increase in excise duty on petrol is going to shoot up by 100 shillings per litre, and then tax on diesel has also increased by 100 shillings per litre. Then you also look at increase of excise duty on imported wines from 80%, that is from 8,000 per litre to 10,000 Ugandan shillings. So that means every importer of wine from any destination that is not Uganda, obviously, because if you're importing, that means you are getting goods from out of the country, you will have to pay 10,000 Ugandan shillings of taxation per litre of wine that you're importing. Now, besides that, when you also look at the other initiatives, in regards to the national budget allocation for 2024-2025, there will be 50 billion Ugandan shillings for presidential initiative on banana industrial development. So that means for those into the value addition of the banana plantations, and for those who grow bananas, those who are looking for, those who are ideally into the value chain of banana, 50 billion Ugandan shillings is into that sector. 723 billion equity acquisition for Day Biopharma Limited. And then we shall see 25 billion shillings for Dr. Margaret Saimo Kahwa anti-tick vaccine. So the government has been pretty much specific and very strategic to support key developments and innovations within the country. Now, also, we shall have 2.07 billion for Dr. Ogwangi's Covidex. Then we expect 25.24 billion for Professor Jennifer Seranga Sempala to advance her research in human vaccines. And then also in the next financial year, 75 billion for Coffee Investment Consortium for the Great Lakes Coffee and Inspire Africa Coffee. So that means those in the coffee industry are also likely to benefit from the same. Then besides that, we expect 32.5 billion Ugandan shillings heading to Kira Motors. So, of course, you get to realize that there is innovation. There is also an aspect of promoting commercial agriculture for Uganda's growth, definitely. Now, when you also look at what Honorable Matia Kasaija revealed, is that Uganda's economy has survived or is now back up from the shocks of COVID-19. If you also look back at the past 3 years, since 2020, we've been struggling to upbeat the losses that we encountered over those 2 years, 2020, 2021, when the economy was not moving steadily simply because of the travel restrictions. You also look at the fact that there was no physical movement whatsoever. Many businesses were shut down because of COVID-19. Many people were working from home or remotely simply because of COVID-19. And Uganda was putting lots of effort in fighting against the spread of COVID-19, which also included trying to look for mechanisms to set out and try to control the spread, and then also trying to manufacture our own vaccines at the end of the day. But on top of that, ensuring that the economy also survives over those past 2 to 3 years. Now, besides that, the economy is expected to grow by 6%. The gross domestic product is expected to grow by 6% by the end of this financial year, because by December 2023, which was last year, Uganda's economy was at 5.3% in terms of economic growth. Now, by the end of June 30th, the projection is saying that the economy will grow by 6% as we are heading into the next financial year for 2024-2025. And of course, you can give it out to the fact that now, in regards to our investments that we are having in the country, and the fact that many of the investors that we are welcoming in the country, when you look at the factors that are contributing to the growth of the economy, it also goes back to what the minister further revealed, that Uganda is the best investment destination within East Africa. And when you look at some of the factors that are driving that, is the fact that there is a lot of appreciation for the investors that come in. And then when you also look at some of the tax incentives that are given to the investors, and then also the security within the country, that climate alone makes it very easy. That kind of, safety climate makes it really easy for any investor to seek for investment within the country or to come and set up an investment structure within the country. But besides that, also when you look at the shoot up of Uganda's tourism industry, and besides that, you also get to realize that this time round, it was the budget for the tourism industry further increased, which also gives us a very huge benefit in regards to attracting more tourists coming into the country. Because back in the time with, taking us back to the period between 2020, 2021, 2022, now those years where we were hit by COVID-19, but not only us, but globally, the issue then was the tourism industry was not benefiting steadily from the same situation. But also, this time around, you get to realize that it is time for us to sit back and see how everything is going to be done. But the bigger worry is our public debt is actually growing. And the external borrowing, the rate at which we borrow externally is even more worrying. However much the Ministry of Finance is reminding the Ugandans to stay comfortable with the fact that this debt is still sustainable. As of now, you get to realize that before we reached this month, our public debt stood at 93.38 trillion Ugandan shillings. Now, the expectations are by the end of this financial year, we are likely to see it shoot up to 97 trillion Ugandan shillings. Now, that is a very huge worry for a country like ours, and we wouldn't wish to have it hit 100 trillion Ugandan shillings. But of course, when you also look at the budget allocations for the next financial year, is a huge chunk of that heading to debt financing. But again, just to remind you that this is a program-based budget, and this program-based budget is behind the theme of full monetization of Uganda's economy through commercial agriculture, industrialization, expanding and broadening services, digital transformation, and market access. Now, market access is for everyone who is adding value, everyone within the various sectors. But speaking of the program-based budget, now let's get right into the breakdown of the budget to see how the different allocations are, and then also to give you, our viewer, a Ugandan out there, a view of what the budget looks like, how the national cake will look like in the next financial year, and what you should expect in the next financial year. Where is your money going to be spent? Now, on my screen here, you could see that the resource envelope is 72.13 trillion Ugandan shillings. Now, on top of that, the budget allocations, as you can see on the screen, clearly show you that human capital development takes the hugest chunk of the money, if I'm to take you back a little in regards to the human capital development, to show you what human capital development is taking in, is that from human capital development, 9.964 trillion shillings, which is 26.30 of the national budget, followed by governance and security with 9.138 trillion shillings. Then on top of that, you get to realize that we shall be having integrated transport, infrastructure, and other services attached to 5.194 trillion Ugandan shillings. Now, that is a 7.20% of the national budget. Now, let me also quickly take you back to governance and security. Now, governance and security, which includes, of course, the security detail in Uganda, making sure that the investors, or making sure that you are Ugandan, is highly secure and protected. 9.138 trillion Ugandan shillings will be heading to that as a program, with 24.20% of the national budget being allocated in there. Now, on top of that, also, as we are looking into the further national budget allocations, now on top of the list is human capital development. Now, here is where me and you, our viewer, is falling, because human capital development focuses on quite a number of things. This is where we are most likely to see the parish development model coming into the picture, because a lot of money has been invested in the parish development model, and you get to also realize that not only the parish development model, there are various projects by the government to ensure that Ugandans really benefit from the government projects, the Myoga, and then you know, when you look at the fact that when we look at the GDP, which is expected to expand to 225.5 trillion shillings, that is equivalent to 60 billion US dollars. These numbers are excluding the anticipated oil and gas revenue that is coming in the next financial year. But besides that, when you look at the human capital development, having a 9.964 trillion of our resource envelope heading to that sector, or to that program, there is a good kind of benefit for the Ugandans to easily earn from the same. Now, when you also look at the same situation, government is making a number of commitments intended to deliver on the NDP3 priorities, as well as the promises the NRM manifesto of 2021 to 2026 made, and making sure that they prioritize healthcare, education, water, sanitation, and hygiene, as you can easily see within the same budget allocations here as I move forward with the other allocations. Now, from human capital development, we then follow up to governance and security, which is taking 24.20% of the national budget. Then that is followed by integrated transport, infrastructure, and services with a 7.2% of the national budget. Now, on top of that, we now look at development plan implementation, which comes in at number 4 with a 6.20% of the national budget. Now, within the resource envelope, that means 2.342 trillion Ugandan shillings is what we expect to have from the development plan implementation in the next financial year. But besides that also, as we move forward to look at the key priority allocations for the next financial year in what seems to be a project, a program-based budget, I beg your pardon. Now, private sector development. Now here, when you look at private sector development, taking 2.07 trillion Ugandan shillings, which is 5.5% of the national budget, it goes back to looking at how the private sector can develop. Because when you look at our economy, it is highly driven by the private sector. However much we look at the private sector having two sectors within there, that is the informal sector and the formal sector. Now, making sure that the private sector is highly boosted is a key priority for the government to ensure that we have an economy that is growing steadily and that can help us support the funding of various sectors within the budget, minus over-relying on external borrowing. Now, besides that, from the private sector development, we then move on to the next one, which is agro-industrialization. Please do note that with our theme for this financial year, which has been the same theme for the past 2 years of our fiscal year agenda, we have been looking at commercialization of agriculture, which means that every player within the agricultural value chain should look forward to making sure that they commercialize their practices. And of course, the president has been very vocal on ensuring that Ugandans do not only stick to subsistence farming, but rather also look at commercial agriculture. Why? Because it gives us a benefit of growing the economy and also lifting household incomes. That is why when you look at some of the projects under the that are being supported by the Emyoga, you look at people who are actually into fish farming, those into piggery, we have people in poultry. You get to realize that many of these are trying to earn a living from their own sweat, or what you could say from their agriculture dealings. And with the agro-industrialization, 4.4% of the national, 4.40% of the national budget, which is equivalent to 1.672 trillion Ugandan shillings, from the resource envelope of 72 trillion will then move to agro-industrialization. Now let's move forward to the other allocations for the next financial year, still in the 2024-2025 budget. Now, looking at regional balanced development, this will take a chunk of 1.575 trillion Ugandan shillings, that is 4.20% of the national budget. Now, regional balanced development is pretty much looking at the efforts of balancing how our regions are, because we do not want to put into a situation of analyzing our regions in a way that the central region or a certain region, or let's say the western region, is having more projects at the expense of the eastern or at the northern region, or at the expense of the central region or the southern region. So we want to focus on making sure that there is balanced development for every region, so that the government can put money in key sectors of the economy. Now, also moving further in the program allocations for the next financial year, away from regional. This is, now the next is sustainable energy development, taking 2.80% of the national budget, a bunch of 1.053 trillion Ugandan shillings heading there. Now, yesterday, Honorable Fiona Nyamtoro did mention that sustainable energy development has the ability to sustain the economy for the next coming decades. Next year, we shall be talking about the oil and gas sector, because we expect our first drop of oil in 2025, which means, or which implies, that Vision 2040 can definitely be a reality. Now moving further still with budget allocation, legislation, oversight and representation, 978.8 billion Ugandan shillings. Sustainable petroleum development, 920.9 billion Ugandan shillings. Again, then you look at natural resources, environment, climate change, land and water, 682.6 billion shillings, 1.80% of the national budget. Administration of justice, 481.46 billion shillings, which is 1.30%. Tourism development, 404.9 billion shillings heading there. Innovation, technology development and transfers, 346.9 billion shillings. Then we look at sustainable urbanization and housing, 237.0 billion shillings. And then besides that, digital transformation with 230.9 billion shillings, that is 0.6% of that. Then manufacturing, 207.3 billion shillings. We have public sector transformation, 205 billion shillings. Now this is different from private sector. Then community mobilization and mindset change, taking 70.4 billion shillings. Mineral development, 41.60 billion shillings. Again, you get to realize that these are program allocations that are likely to benefit many of the Ugandans, with about 37.8192 trillion Ugandan shillings heading to that, just the program allocations for the next financial year. Now also, when you look at the graph, really, the human capital development takes the hugest bunch of the programs. But then, besides that, that is 34 trillion Ugandan shillings. Please do note that away from that, we then expect the other money coming in from external borrowing. Again, we also expect that money to be used to head to financing the ever-growing debt that we have as a country. And also, we expect some revenue mobilization from the Uganda Revenue Authority at 31 trillion Ugandan shillings. I don't know how you as a Ugandan are taking this particular budget this year, but that is what we have for the next financial year. But for now, Chanel Oliver Calendar is returning here on Good Morning Uganda Friday edition to give you the latest from the world of entertainment. And then I also have some reactions coming in from some of the ministers and members of parliament in regards to the national budget reading and the key priority areas that were put aside that. But for now, that's it for the GMU Business News this Friday. I'm Joram Paul Sonko. Stick around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda. Pick of the day on UBC.
One-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
A weekly face-to-face conversation focusing on accountability, inspiration, information, and sensitization of the public from the various sources, such as inspirational profiles.
Having a disability is not inability.
Every Friday 9 p.m., it's one-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
Don't you see anywhere that you would give a credit in the fight against COVID?
My role as the owner of the country is not to, be preoccupied by giving credit to my servant.
We have said that if we are to talk to General Museveni, there must be certain conditions in place.
Is it true that you paid 5 million shillings to MPs that voted for?
Was brought to you by.
I'll call you every day, yeah, yo, baby,
you can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks. Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000. Or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21 hash and select daily, or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
This weekend on UBC.
We know what we are doing, and we're doing it in rebellion. But do you know what we say? He will understand. Now he will understand. We carry it on. We want our children to be better than that.
Why we are living in rebellion, but we want our children to be so good at obedience.
We can only parent as far as or as much as we are obedient to our Father.
If you rebel against him and you expect your children to be obedient, I'm telling you, God in his mercy may come and meet them on his own, but you will become a reject. You will become a reject before your children.
This weekend on UBC.
One-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
A weekly face-to-face conversation focusing on accountability, inspiration, information, and sensitization of the public from the various sources, such as inspirational profiles.
Having a disability is not inability.
Professional guidance.
There is no special antiretroviral therapy that is given specifically for discordant couples.
And of course, politics.
Don't you see anywhere that you would give a credit in the fight against COVID?
My role as the owner of the country is not to, be preoccupied by giving credit to my servant.
We have said that if we are to talk to General Museveni, there must be certain conditions in place.
Is it true that you paid 5 million shillings to MPs that voted for Anita Monga and Tayebo?
That is laughable. Why would we pay when we have nominated them as SEC?
Every party has been represented in Uganda's parliament for 10 years. We only
by one MP, you yourself.
And my daughter, Susan.
Every Friday 9 p.m., it's one-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa on UBC TV, inspiring Uganda. Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, today's Friday has been rather interesting in a very good way, with the conversation on men's mental health and the breakdown of the budget. Well, if Sonko was here, I would give him a financial handshake since we're talking things to do with finances. Unfortunately, he is not here. Well, right now we get to cross over into the world of entertainment, and this very morning we are starting with our movies, and the first one is Darkness of Man. Now, Darkness of Man is a 2024 American action thriller film written, directed, and co-produced by James Brissac. It stars Jean-Claude Van Damme, Kristana Loken, Emerson Min, Spencer Breslin, Sticky Fingers, and Shannon Doherty. The film was released on VOD, that was on the 21st of May 2024. Now, according to the plot, Russell Hatch, an Interpol operative who takes on the role of father figure to Jaden, the son of an informant killed in a routine raid gone wrong. Now, the cast has already told you, have Jean-Claude Van Damme. If you remember the days of Van Damme, he was a household name for those that loved action movies. So take a look at the trailer and let me know if you would, and I hope that you like it.
Back out, old man. I said back the... You are a dead man. The Russians, they took Jaden.
Why would they take Jaden?
It was a setup. I'm coming to save you. A true vigilante. You made it personal. What you saw today was just a taste. Where's the kid? Who are you? What the... Remember now? I made a promise to your mother to protect you for the rest of my life.
Watch out!
Darkness of Man is the movie trailer right there, featuring Jean-Claude Van Damme. Now, the next recommendation is a 2024 Indian Hindi language science fiction film, and the title is Big Master, Little Master. And I can assure you, when I try to read it, let's try to see if I can read it properly in Hindi. Bade Mian, Chote Mian. Sounds pretty easy, right? Hopefully I've pronounced it properly. But this very movie was directed by Ali Abbas Zafar, who co-produced the film with Jackie Bagnani, Vashu Bagnani, and Deepshika, and very many other names that are very interesting to read at this particular moment. And the film stars Akshay Kumar and Tiger Shroff in the titular roles, alongside Prith Vraj. Interesting names, and very many others. And in this film, two former soldiers race against time to save India from an imminent attack orchestrated by a vengeful evil scientist. And this film was announced in 2022, but as you can see, released in 2024. Hopefully you like this one.
दिल से सोल्जर, दिमाग से शैतान है।
बच के रहना हमसे, हिंदुस्तान है हम।
मैं नॉर्थ कवर करता, आप ईस्ट संभालो।
तू क्यों लीड करेगा?
Because I'm the best.
एक्सपीरियंस और मैच्योर्ड कौन है?
Young और डायनामिक कौन है?
पावरफुल एंड परफेक्शनिस्ट कौन है?
Fast and furious कौन है?
बड़ा कौन है?
इस मिशन में तुम्हारे साथ होंगी कैप्टन मीशा और पैम, आईटी स्पेशलिस्ट और हमारी अंडरकवर एसिड।
हमने पैकेज को ट्रैक कर लिया है। वो लंदन में एक अंडरग्राउंड वॉल्ट में है। तुम दोनों ऑर्डर्स क्यों नहीं फॉलो करते?
मेरा ईगो मेरे टैलेंट से बड़ा है। उनका सबसे बड़ा टैलेंट ही उनका ईगो है।
जो तुमने मेरे साथ किया है, अब उसका हिसाब
पूरा हिंदुस्तान देगा. You think you're real heroes? Try and stop me.
ये मैदान तेरा जरूर होगा.
लेकिन इस खेल के सबसे पुराने खिलाड़ी हम हैं.
हमारी रेजिमेंट का नाम है लायंस.
और इस रेजिमेंट का सोल्जर जितना जख्मी होता है
उतना ज्यादा खतरनाक होता है.
हम बहुत पुराने दोस्त हैं.
एक दूसरे के लिए जान दे भी सकते हैं
और एक दूसरे की जान ले भी सकते हैं.
Big Master, Little Master is the movie right there. I highly recommend you get it with the subtitles because as you can see, it is in the Hindu language. Now, the last recommendation we have is Damaged. This is a 2024 crime drama film directed by Terry McDonough and starring Samuel L. Jackson, Vincent Cassel and Gianni Capaldi. It follows Chicago-based detective Dan Lawson, Samuel L. Jackson, who investigates a series of serial killings in Scotland alongside another detective, Walter Bravo, also who now takes on the name of Cassel. As the case continues, Lawson discovers a pattern similar to another killing spree he handled 5 years prior. The film was released in select theaters, including on demand and digital, on April 12, 2024, to negative reviews from critics. Now, according to the premise, Dan Lawson is called upon by Scottish authorities to investigate a series of serial killings alongside another detective, and Lawson discerns a pattern that connects to some killings. Now, this is a very interesting movie that I know you would not even, you can't even imagine how it ended, but here's the trailer.
Outline for cross and blood.
Textbook cult ideology. He was releasing her from this life and ushering her into the next.
We explored many sects and cults, believed in their own moral compass, thought they were God.
What religion are you?
I have a purpose in life.
A man who likes to show people the way.
We all have a calling, don't we?
What is wrong with this picture? This looks like someone's sending a message.
He's playing with us.
This is just the beginning.
Serial killers seek a trophy from their victims.
He's toying with you, Glenn.
Are you really to catching him?
Yep, that is the movie. I highly recommend this one if you're someone that loves action movies. And that leads us to the end of our movie recommendations and entertainment this morning. Coming up is sports, and Sonko is already in studio. Even Ruben is already here. So for now, I'm out. Sports coming up next.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
One-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
A weekly face-to-face conversation focusing on accountability, inspiration, information, and sensitization of the public. from the various sources such as inspirational profiles.
Having disability is not inability.
Every Friday 9 p.m. it's one-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
Don't you see anywhere that you would give a credit in the fight against COVID?
My role as the owner of the country is not to, be preoccupied by giving credit to my servant.
We have said that if we are to talk to General Museveni, there must be certain conditions in place.
Is it true that you paid 5 million shillings to MPs that voted for?
Was brought to you by
You can now get all the Chibuzi out with MTN voice bundles. Call all networks Kubei Dondoro. Buy a 25-minute voice bundle for only 1,000 or buy any daily voice bundle of your choice. Dial *100 *21# and select daily or use the My MTN app. When we talk together, we are unstoppable.
This weekend on UBC.
We know what we are doing and we're doing it in rebellion. But you know what we say? He will understand. Now he will understand. We carry it on. We want our children to be better than that.
Why we are living in rebellion, but we want our children to be so good at obedience.
We can only parent as far as or as much as we are obedient to our Father.
If you rebel against him and you expect your children to be obedient, I'm telling you, God in his mercy may come and meet them on his own, but you will become a reject. You will become a reject before your children.
This weekend on UBC.
One-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa.
A weekly face-to-face conversation focusing on accountability, inspiration, information, and sensitization of the public from the various sources such as inspirational profiles.
Having disability is not inability.
Professional guidance.
There is no special antiretroviral therapy that is given specifically for discordant couples.
And of course, politics.
Don't you see anywhere that you would give a credit in the fight against COVID?
My role as the, be preoccupied by giving credit to my servant.
There must be certain conditions in place.
Is it true that you paid 5 million shillings to MPs that voted for Anita Monga Ntayebo?
That is laughable. Why would we pay when we have nominated them as SEC?
Conservative Party has been represented in Uganda's parliament for 10 years. We only
by one MP, you yourself
and my daughter, Susan.
Every Friday 9 p.m. it's one-on-one with Michael Jordan Lukomwa on UBC TV, inspiring Uganda.
UBC is the national public broadcaster. We educate, inform, entertain, and inspire our audiences. You can watch us on free-to-air channel 001, TV channel 282, Go TV channel 371, Star Times channel 201, Zuku TV channel 20, and Azam TV channel 350. Even when your subscription expires, you can still watch UBC for free on your pay TV platforms.
107.3 Kampala, 96.9 Mbale.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala, this is Good Morning Uganda.